Alrighty then, Mrs. Smith. Tell me again, why we are seeing little Johnny today.
A few months ago Johnny spiked a 104-degree fever and was uncharacteristically lethargic. I brought him in here to see you. You told me to alternate Tylenol and Motrin every few hours. Since then we lost what little eye contact we had with Johnny. He has yellow diarrhea. If it makes contact with his skin he has red, raised bumps that can last for days. He will only eat chicken nuggets. He never learned to crawl. He has eczema all over his body. He tantrums often, sleeps poorly, and he hurts himself. He is often sick with ear infections which have been treated with antibiotics, repeatedly.
Okay, when you brought him in, did we diagnose him with a virus of some sort?
No. He had his 12-month vaccinations a day before this all went down. He received the DTaP. He received the hepatitis A vaccine, the hepatitis B vaccine, the varicella vaccine, the IPV vaccine, the PCV vaccine, and the Hib, and the MMR. At the time he weighed 17 pounds.
Nicely done. Right on schedule. You, Mrs. Smith, are a good mommy.
Thank you. But I'm concerned.
About what?
Well, the yellow diarrhea for starters.
That could be anything.
Can we find out what that anything could be?
Of course. I will refer you to a gastroenterologist. I wouldn't worry about it. His food preferences might be causing the diarrhea.
But what's causing his food preferences? I've been trying to get him to eat different food for several months. Do you think the diarrhea and his weird food preferences have anything to do with his behavior?
No, Mrs. Smith. The stomach and the brain are two separate organs. I'll write you a script for the eczema. We'll get him a nice powerful steroid to clear that up.
Thanks, but that's what you did last time. Do you know what might be causing the eczema?
Lots of little kids have eczema. It usually goes away when they get older. Maybe it's your detergent.
You said that the last time I asked you about this. I switched to a dye-free detergent and quit using over-the-counter soaps and lotions on his skin. It's still awful. It wakes him in the middle of the night.
Okay, I'll write you a referral for a pediatric dermatologist.
Also, he doesn't seem to respond to us when we call his name and he doesn't really talk.
Okay. I will write you a referral to a good ENT. He probably needs tubes in his ears.
But he can hear the theme song to Mickey Mouse Clubhouse playing in the basement if he is upstairs in the bathroom with the water running and the door closed.
Even so, you can never be too careful, so I'll get you that referral. Tell me, does he like spinning objects, like ceiling fans?
Yes. And he spins toys instead of playing with them. He waves his hand alongside his eyes and walks on his tiptoes.
Oh dear.
What?
Mrs. Smith, I'm sorry to say that it sounds like Johnny is exhibiting autistic-like symptoms.
What are autistic-like symptoms?
Autism.
So, Johnny has autism? Wow. I guess this is an example of the better diagnosis that Roy Granker fellow has been talking about. I hate to say it, but I guess I am relieved. At least now I know what it is. Okay. What do I do next? How do I help my son?
I'm sorry to say there's no cure for autism. Recovery is a myth. If you get him intensive behavioral therapy, he could make considerable progress. Some kids do quite well, some end up institutionalized depending on how severe their symptoms, behaviors, can be. I'll write you a referral for a pediatric neurologist. You'll want to get an EEG to see if he is having seizures.
Can the pediatric neurologist help me with all the other things that are physically wrong with him? I can't shake the notion that it's all related somehow.
Mrs. Smith. Are you listening to those crazy autism parents? The ones who think their kid's autism is a medical problem instead of a psychiatric disorder?
You have to admit that it seems strange that all these conditions either worsened or manifested so soon after his immunizations. His fever spiked and poof, gone.
His fever and these symptoms appearing so soon after vaccination are purely coincidental.
But lots of parents in my own community have had similar experiences.
That's gibberish. There are hundreds of studies that indicate how safe and effective vaccines are for all children.
But all children are not the same. Surely you can acknowledge that fact. I'm not saying all cases of autism are the result of vaccines. I'm saying the cases in which parents observe a correlation should be investigated. That's all.
I'm so sorry you are having such a hard time accepting this, Mrs. Smith. But you must realize the scientific truth that vaccines have nothing to do with your son's condition.
Okay. Let me ask you this, can a child die from a peanut allergy?
Strange question, but of course, in certain cases a child can have a severe reaction to a peanut if they have a compromised immune system. So yes, certain kids can die from a reaction to a peanut.
How do you know if a child has a compromised immune system?
Well, you don't always know. You'd have to test for it.
Got it. How do you do that?
Well, we normally don't, unless there's a reason to suspect immune compromise exists.
Why not?
You just don't go testing willy-nilly. That would be frivolous and costly.
Are there any outward signs of immune compromise in kids that would help parents identify whether or not their child might have this condition?
Other than a reaction, no.
Alright then. How many studies do you have in those medical journals about peanuts?
What are you getting at?
Lots and lots of folks can eat peanuts and be perfectly fine. Some can die. Lots and lots of kids can get vaccinated and be perfectly fine. Some can die. Many can develop lifelong disabilities. The $2 billion awarded to vaccine-injured families in vaccine court is evidence of this fact. My child is not a statistic in a medical journal. He is not a nameless, faceless subject in a laboratory. He is an individual. A human being. I witnessed his decline, loss of skills, and the development of his physical illness within hours of his vaccination. If a child can be unknowingly allergic to a peanut, a child can be unknowingly allergic to a vaccine.
Whoa. Whoa. Mrs. Smith, let's not go down this path. That's quite a leap. Sadly, yes, some children become ill. But, honestly, this is necessary for the greater good. Come on, I think we both know, most vaccines are safe for most kids.
But just a minute ago you said all vaccines are safe for all kids.
If parents read the MSD sheet that they are given at the time of vaccination, they have been informed of the risks of vaccinating.
What difference does it make if you inform them of the risks? How could they possibly know if their child was at risk or not, unless they had a previous reaction? And how would they know if their child had a previous reaction if the medical community kept telling them that a reaction was not possible?
Now you're just looking for trouble.
Okay. One last request. I am interested in reading one of those studies you are talking about.
No problem. There are several to choose from. Which one in particular?
I would like to see the abstract of the study done that shows the effects of the multiple vaccines that are administered in conjunction with one another at the 12-month well baby visit.
No can do. That study does not exist.
Why not?
It's complicated. It would be hard for you to understand as you are not a physician, scientist, or researcher.
Try me.
Well, there are no actual studies in existence that examine those particular vaccines when they are administered simultaneously.
How is that possible?
Conducting costly research on vaccines administered in conjunction with one another is unjustifiable financially. Testing is done when you are trying to bring a product to market, not once it's approved. The successful promotion of general vaccine philosophy nullifies the need for such research.
So, it's not necessary to test the effects of vaccines when they are administered in conjunction with one another, because everyone believes vaccines in general are safe, and the belief that they are safe negates the need to confirm whether or not they are actually safe.
Yes.
So you are telling me the CDC, author of the Childhood Immunization Schedule, that encourages the practice of simultaneous multiple vaccinations, has not actually tested the practice of simultaneous multiple vaccinations?
Well, I guess, if you want to get technical about it, yes.
Okay. In light of this, do you think that maybe, just possibly, there might be a correlation between Johnny's gut issues, the diarrhea, his immune dysfunction, the eczema, his metabolic issues, the strange food preferences, and his neurological functioning, the autistic behaviors?
Honestly, Mrs. Smith, I don't know.
Wow. Thank you so much for your honesty. Now we are getting somewhere. Since these studies have not been done by pharmaceutical companies or the government, and so many children are diagnosed with autism and these mysterious bowel issues, do you think you would be willing to look at research that's been conducted by internationally recognized and acclaimed, non-pharma-funded institutions, that explores this link?
That research does not exist.
Yes, it does. Do you want to see it?
No.
Why not?
I could get in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble.
Why?
You saw what happened to that doctor in the UK, didn't you? I've read his paper. He never even said there was an association between MMR vaccine and autism. He merely suggested that more studies were warranted. He's been ridiculed, stripped of his license, and now they are accusing him of fraud.
Are you saying it's possible that these reporters never even read his paper? That they didn't do their own research?
I have no idea. But I don't want to end up like him. Too close to retirement.
Where can I go to learn more?
Go to everythingsfinemrsgoes.com, authored by L.J. Goes, managing partner of the Misuta Project, an autism media company in search of the truth, in support of those pursuing it.